Welcome. I'm glad you are joining me. I look forward to your participation in spirit in the work that I'm doing here at Solus Spiritus. I think it's a fun work, but it's a challenging work, and sometimes it feels kind of dangerous. It feels dangerous because there are so many forces at work in the world around me and you that it's important to be cautious and to pay attention to the proprieties that are very important in doing this kind of work. And I know propriety doesn't seem like an interesting word, but to me it's a very interesting word because it allows us to develop a sort of a ritualized civility where we can have our actions guided and they stay within the bounds of understanding for most people. And that's very important because we have to be able to communicate in ways that are not inflammatory, but that express very clearly and honestly what it is that's going on. And that's the topic of today's meditation or reflection, as it were. And so what I want to talk about today, and I welcome you again for joining me, is I want to talk about the familiarity of personality in these conflicts that are sprouting up all over the world, particularly in New York City right now, in Colombia, in the Gaza, gosh, you name it, in Ukraine. It's almost hard to find a spot where there's not a Brazilian Supreme Court justice who is tyrannizing his country. It's just unbelievable. And it's an age-old conflict. And it should be understood as such. These are not new issues. These are not new issues of Marxism. They're not new issues of tyranny of one sort or another. This is not a new issue of the conflict of nations, of conflict of economies. That's not what's happening. It's what's never happened. And I want to draw our attention back to Gaza. This land has been in turmoil and in bloodshed for a long time, thousands and thousands of years. How could that be? Why is that so? How has there not been a shift in energies? Is there not some way to rehabilitate the situation? And the fact is, there really isn't. Because the situation is static, it's not dynamic. There is a need for blood here. There are forces that have been here for a long time, and their need for blood and sacrifice is unceasing. It's not going to stop. They are going to seek blood and sacrifice no matter what, because it's part of their nature. It's part of their nature as beasts. And so the only way that we can work with this, that makes any sense to me, is to deny the beast the one thing that the beast needs to be successful, and that is a willing personality. And the personalities at play now have been seduced endlessly by the same arguments, the same fear, the same insinuations, the same psychic manipulations. It's always been the same. Rivalries and jealousies and lusts. They prey on personalities, and particularly its weak personalities who fall prey to celebrity and lust and money and fortune and fame and, to repeat yourself constantly. So the issues are there. They're issues of personality. And so the question to me, and the one that I pose to you, is how do you relinquish personality to a degree where it's no longer an instrument of blood and sacrifice? And that's the word, I guess, the instrumentality of personality. How is it being used? What sort of tool is it? And the tool that most cases it happens is the personality is cruelly manipulated, because in many ways it's defenseless as it is. The alone personality really has no recourse, because it is barely able to make connection with being. It's just almost a force that's been crafted but not really created. And so it's, to a degree, a little bit homeless. And so what I want to say is it's time to take that into consideration and set personality down. It's not a tool which can be readily used for much good. It's important to create contrast, but in the end, it doesn't really do what it needs to do very well. And so what I'm saying is that what does do well is paying attention to our calling in the divine hierarchy. That's where our being begins to expand. That's where we develop the power that comes from being true to and in tune with our calling. So an expanded personality is not going to do anything for you. You might make it in the history books, although I don't think you're going to do well in that assertion. I don't think you'll be asserted well. Whereas your being connected to the divine, being true to your calling and in attunement with those around you, that's something that can resonate. It can resonate very well. It's a beautiful thing. So by setting down your personality, you free yourself from the constraints of personality to expand in the divine hierarchy to be the being that you are meant to be. So you are rising in the divine hierarchy. And the technique for doing that, again, is setting down personality. You don't have to kick it to the ground. That's not what I'm saying. To a degree, it's important to love it. But to love it in a way that you understand exactly what it is and what its limitations are. And it's something then to be understood and honored for what it is, but not to be obeyed. Obeying your personality and being enslavement to your personality or enthrall to your personality is where humankind falls into rivers of blood. And so I think it's time to, be true to that and to say it's time to set down personality. And that means learning to ignore what it is that our personality is saying to us. You just can't pay attention to that stuff. And what you do pay attention to is the callings that come from sympathy and cooperation. Being in sympathy with one another, cooperating with one another, and in that cooperation and sympathy, developing a relationship which is the basis of family and community. And to be able then to expand our familial connections out into the family that exists in the larger cosmos. I've been talking a lot about the realm of Heron, and I have two really wonderful sculptures of herons by my fireplace. They are quite remarkable, and they're very beautiful, uniquely different. And they represent to me a realm where my family and those of my clan or my kin reside. And I think there are many realms and many families. And it's in this way we can reintegrate our families and do what I did earlier today, which was to invite my family, my celestial family, to show up, to say hello, to come to my door, to visit my stoop. And I found that to be a very heartwarming event, to do that, to say, hey, I know you're out there, my invisible family from the unseen world. My legacy is there, I know it is. The beings of my past and future are there. And I salute you. I want you to know that I appreciate and understand the fact of your being. It seems very clear to me. And that fact of the being of my family in the realm of Heron gives me great satisfaction. It gives me things to look for signs and wonders from the realm of Heron. And I look for more of that every day. And I am going to continue to utilize not only my resources here in this material world, what you could call ordinary reality, but to incorporate in my ordinary reality the extraordinary reality of the realm of Heron. And that's the work that I'm doing today. And I include you in that. And I hope that you will take a cue, find something in what I've said that sparks a resonance in you, gives you a little glimmer of understanding of something in your own life. And I hope you will follow it up and personalize it and become what it is that you are seeking. So in my meditations this morning, early this morning and late last night, it was finding myself embodying my own meditation. In other words, I was my meditation. I was in my meditation spot. Not here in my house, but in my place of meditation. I was there. I arrived there, and I was sensing being there. The things that were there, I was able to connect with and see in a particularly interesting way. That gave a body to my meditation and my speculation or reflection. However, I want to call it, I don't know sometimes. I think that's the thing that we don't know. It's hard to be specific about these matters and these worlds and realms. We can just do what we can do. So thank you for attending and for paying attention to me and listening all the way through. Perhaps you can contact me and tell me of your meditations or your reflections, how you have been working with personality and the people around you, and whether or not you find sympathy and cooperation to be things that you can lean into. Thank you again. Amen.